Yo, what's up, guys? Mike Thomas, aka the Young Trishula here, and we are back at it once again today with some very crazy Yu-Gi-Oh, some very crazy Dragon Link content that I've been cooking up. You guys might have seen in the last video. I kind of teased this at the end. This is a deck list that I have been working on. I'm very excited to share with you guys because this deck is just crazy, dude. Like, some of the stuff that you can do with this deck is just obscene. So if you guys have recently seen the Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel ban list, Dragon Link has taken a very, very big hit. It has lost its Wyver Burster, and it has lost its Chaos Ruler, which were kind of some of the most important cards of the deck. Wyver Burster is kind of like a really rough hit, because it low-key hit 9 cards out of your deck. It's removing 2 Wyvers, 2 Collapse Serpents, 2 Chaos Spaces, because that card's not very, very good without the Wyver Burster, or the Collapse. And then it also hits your Safers, because it's not a normal summon anymore, so why would you play it? So it hits all of your good cards. All the cards that Dragon Link is kind of synonymous with are just not really very good anymore. So it's kind of a more impactful hit than I think most people would have thought at first glance. So Dragon Link has to change. How does it change? Well, I've come up with a list that I think is pretty insane. But before we show you guys the list, I need you guys to do 2 things as always. Go down into the go into the comments, drop a comment, but like, comment, subscribe, etc. Blah 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 blah. But also going down into the description box down below and download the Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel deck tracker. It was made by the same people who made the deck tracker for Hearthstone, for Magic the Gathering Arena, and for Marvel Snap. Very, very useful program. It adds some really needed features into Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, such as importing and exporting decks, so that you can share them between your friends. It's how I share my deck lists with my Twitch chat all the time. And as well, it allows you to track your stats so that you can track your progress as a player. You know, did you go 35 games and lost 20? Or did you go 25 games and lose 50? How would you know? Because you're just playing Master Duel and not paying attention? Well, the game keeps track of it for you. So, very, very useful program. Highly recommend it. And it helps me out, so go do that. But that's not what you're here to see, so let's hop into this deck list because it is very, 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 very cool. So we're going to hop over here, and this is kind of the reveal of the deck that we teased last time. This deck is absolutely insane. I'll give you guys a second to process what we're cooking here, and as always, I'm going to read through all the cards. So this deck list has, it's made a few things. It's changed a few things, right? This is kind of based on the concept of the deck that I played for the MCS 5K that was hosted by MBT. We ended up winning $1,000 and getting second place. We also played this on day 1 of the DC Cup, and we got, I think, 4th or 5th place globally, playing previous iteration of this deck. So deck's pretty good, pretty decent. And I have it on limited right now, so I'll switch over to standard so that you guys can kind of see what the regulations are like. But I was testing the deck, so I had to set it for unlimited, because I'm recording this video before the ban list is dropped, and Terror Top is still at 1, but it is moving to 3, and I think that that's kind of a mistake, because this card is very, very good, and this card was at 1 for a reason. And now they're bringing it back to 3, and I'm not sure if they fully thought this through, because this is very, very good for decks that aren't called Speedroid. Yeah. So I'm going to talk through the deck and kind of talk through the concept here. So as you can see, this is clearly an Adventure Dragon Link pile. It does make use of the Apple Dragons like the other build did, but it also takes advantage of the adventure cards, and it takes advantage of Magician's Souls. This is a very, very cool card that I've played in Dragon Link before. I played it at the North American World Championship qualifier in 2022. I think it was 22. Yeah, it was 22. I played it in 2022 and was undefeated day 1, and then I just bungled it day 2. I should have topped that event. And then I also played this in a MCS deck like a year ago, like in the first season of the MBT's MCSs. I don't know. I played a Dragon Link deck that played this card, and it was really good. But basically, this card's really good because if you don't know what it does, it can special summon itself by sending a Dark Magician to the graveyard, or by sending a level 6 or higher spellcaster. And thankfully there's a card that searches Magician Souls that is a level 6 or higher spellcaster. But interesting quirk about it is that it's a ritual monster. And while it is not specifically mentioned on the card that it cannot be normal summon set, ritual monsters are kind of like extra deck monsters in the main deck. They cannot be normal summoners set like in traditional ways, which means that they can be searched by Chaos Space. I think you see where I'm going with this. So this card makes Chaos Space less bad, because this is something I talked about a lot in the previous video, is that Chaos Space isn't really as good as it used to be because you're not recovering the advantage that you're losing by activating Chaos Space, right? But thankfully Magician Souls allows you to draw cards by sending spell traps from your hand or field to the graveyard. Why is that important? Well, Dragon Link plays field spells that you search and then you use, and sometimes you just get rid of by like playing another field spell over it, right? Well, you can, instead of just playing a field spell over it, why not just Upstart Goblin it? Why not send it to the graveyard, draw a card, right? But you also play the Adventure Engine. What does the Adventure Engine do? It gets you 2 spell cards that are on your field for free that sit there and do nothing. Why don't we draw 2 cards? Pretty good. So the idea with Magician Souls is that this is a card that you can search off Chaos Space that then gets you more advantage. It helps you, generate that card advantage that you're missing. And it's also it gives you a dark to search as well as a light. So you have both a light that you can search and a dark that you can search, which makes it very, very cool. Another cool interaction is that you can put the Illusion of Chaos back with the Chaos Space, which means that if you have another Magician Souls later in your game, like you get into a grind game, you can always summon another one. So it's very, very cool, and it's kind of a cool concept that I really want to explore, and it's been very good in testing. But now that the concept is explained, let's talk about the cards. So we just talked about Magician Souls, so I'll skip over it. But again, we're playing Black Metal. That's the normal summon now. Black Metal, you're playing this in every build of Dragon Link, but it's especially good in the Adventure build because it doesn't have an on-summon effect. So your premier normal summon combos with the Adventure cards. So you're losing nothing by doing this, which is fantastic. So you play the 3 Black Metal, you play your Meteor Dragon, and you play your Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon. So those are all still there, still very normal. And if you're worried about drawing Driver, you're now playing a 60-card deck, so you're less likely to draw it. So another reason to play this build. So that's the main stuff. Moving on to the Rockets, it's the same. 2 Tracer, Recharger, Caliber, Absol-Ratter. If you want to know why we play that ratio, go watch the previous video. This one's already, going on a little bit too long. Watch the previous video too. As for the Bestials, this engine has been condensed a little bit to try and fit in some of the other cards that we're trying to play. So it is just 1 Magnuma, 2 Sarnier, 1 Druis, and 3 Lubellion. Similarly to my last video, if you want to make the substitution, I had cut Nibiru for the Baldrake. And the idea there was that you wanted to give yourself more bodies that you can summon if your opponent takes a Maxi challenge, right? That's really what the nib is there for. If you find yourself missing the Bestials, you can always cut the nib for an extra Bestial, just for kind of the same idea. But that is the Bestial ratio we're playing, also with the 3 Lubellion, because you just need to see your engine. So that is that. So that's like the core Dragon engine, but now let's move on to the Adventure half of the deck. So obviously we play the standard Adventure package of Water Enchantress, Griffin, the Rites. Foolish is also Water Enchantress, like this just sends Water Enchantress. So we play that engine, right? And then we play the Ringo Works. Because if you guys have seen my previous videos on this deck, you've seen what I've been doing with this deck before. This card synergizes very well with the Adventure token, because if you control a face-up non-effect monster, you can summon it from your hand. Then if it's in the graveyard and you have performed a synchro summon, you can banish it and special summon out a token. So previously, the reason why this card was so good and so powerful in the previous build is because of Chaos Ruler. You didn't need the non-effect monster to make this card good, but it's still a free extender in Dragon Link when you do have the adventure stuff, so it's still worth playing. It also synergizes with Nibiru, which is interesting because it doesn't matter who the non-effect monster, whose field the non-effect monster is on. That's something you can keep in mind as well. The other thing too is that while you don't have the Chaos Ruler, you can still actually trigger its graveyard effect. And there's some cool stuff that you can do with it. As you can see, I'm playing I'll give it away. The Marital Metal Marcher, the Martial Metal Marcher. This card is really fun in combination with the Ringo Worm, because we're playing those souls, and the souls are level 1s, black metals are level 1s, you know. All the levels kind of like work together. It works out, and it's just kind of solid. But then this leaves the kind of the black sheep of the deck. I've already kind of mentioned it, but which is Speedroid Terratop. I consider this to be part of the adventure engine. So all Speedroid Terratop really is here to do is to give you 2 free bodies at the start of your turn, which go into Cherubini. Cherubini, you would know what this card does if you played Phantom Knights at all, or Burning Abyss, Farfel Watchers, shoutouts. But this card's kind of cool. Monsters this card points to cannot be destroyed by card effects. Fair enough, right? If this card would be destroyed by battle or opponent's card effect, you can send another card you control to the graveyard instead. Cool. Sure. Here's the fun part. As cost, so they can't interrupt this with Ash or Imperm or whatever, so as cost, you can send a level 3 monster from your deck to the graveyard, target a Burning Abyss monster on the field, which itself is, and it boosts its attack and defense, equal to what you sent. This means that this card is Lavavel Chain for any level 3 monster. Water Enchantress is level 3. Water Enchantress can activate in the graveyard. You see where this is going. So if you open Terratop, you special Terratop, you special Tactenborg, you make your Cherubini, and then you dump your Water Enchantress gets you your right, you special your token, you special your Griffin Rider, and off of one card, you have a Link 2 and a level 4, a level 7 Winged Beast, which theoretically could be used to make Romulus, but it's also hand trap protection. It's an Omni Negate off of one card. So this card makes you go like +4, +5, like something stupid, and that's really what this deck needs. Is this deck, having lost, you know, your Wyverburster, your Collapse, like your extenders, your starters, you need cards that you can just throw on the field and force your opponent to interact with. And if your opponent doesn't interact with Terratop, you know, then you go hella plus. You go like super plus. If they do interact with it, they're interacting with a card that is not related to the Dragon Link part of your deck. So you're baiting interactions. So this card is very useful for that. And then you might be like, well, Trish, I don't really want to play a Garnet, you know, like Tactenborg is not very useful. Well, here's something to think about. I don't think Tactenborg is a Garnet. Because if you control any wind monster, you can summon it from your hands. We're always making Romulus. This card's a wind. Triple Burst doesn't require dragons. You can use anything to make this. See where this is going? you can kind of see where this is going. So it's just kind of a free extender that you can summon a lot. You know, there's like suspiciously like quite a few wins that you have access to. Because your Metal Marcher, your Baron, your Romulus, like all of those are wins that you can talk with. I think there's another main deck one. Oh yeah, the Griffin Rider is one. So like you have ways to get this card onto the field like pretty consistently. So it's actually like not really a Garnet. So I don't really mind playing this card at all. So I think that this card is really solid just as a way to dump the Water Enchantress. Here's the downside. Unfortunately, Water Enchantress is at 1 in Master Duel, so if you do draw the Water Enchantress plus Tactenborg, or plus Terratop, Terratop's not really doing too much for you, but it's still 2 free bodies, so like, you know, that's never really bad. Yeah, it's not bad. I I looked really hard for like a card that we could send that would be good for Dragon Link, and unless you want to dip into like Carbon Geddon shenanigans, the best dragon that you can send is Defrag, which like is not very good. But this is why I like posting stuff on YouTube, because one of you guys might come up with something that might be really, really solid that we could dump if we already have the Water Enchantress. You know, maybe we go back to playing Phantom Knight Dragon Link. That was a thing for a little bit, but who knows? But this is something that I think we should be experimenting with, and I highly encourage you to experiment with. It's only 3 SRs, so if you're worried about like materials, not a big investment at all. So yeah, that's that. Also, I think I forgot to mention, but I'm still playing one Seifert, so you play the one Seifert. But yeah, that's kind of like the core of the deck. I'll move on to the spell traps before I talk about, like, well, I guess I'll mention the defensives now. We play the 3 Ash, the 3 Maxi, the 2 Gamma, 1 Driver. Obviously, like, you have to play Driver for Gamma and for the Meteor, so it works out. There's the 1 Nib in this list. You can cut the Nib and play like an extra Bestial if you want to. That's up to you. I like the Nib. And then I have 2 Imperms in here, and those were the main defensive cards in the deck. And you know, you can play a little bit more of hand traps in these bigger deck lists, so kind of nice for that reason. Moving on to the spell traps, we have the Foolish Burial. I mentioned before, but it sends Water Enchantress, just more ways to see it. But also, you know, that you have a lot of good graveyard effects. Like, you can dump Saronir, you can dump Lubellion, you can dump Seifert, you can dump Absorator. You know, like, if you already draw like this engine, like, this card's still not bad. We play the 1-for-1 because it's the better starter. It's just more copies of Black Metal. But I put the Chaos Space back in. And you guys heard me say before, like, this card isn't as good as it used to be. This card's kind of neg, like, it's not super great anymore. But the fact that it can search the Illusion of Chaos and the fact that it can search the Lubellion makes it really, really nice, because it lets you, you know, it lets you get into some of these really powerful hands. So, like, let's think, for example, that your opening hand is like Water Enchantress, Gamma, and like Chaos Space, right? 3-card hand. You go Water Enchantress, they don't ash you, so your Gamma's kind of dead. You go right, you know, you can't do anything with it now. Alright, cool. We're going to activate Chaos Space, pitch that Gamma because we don't need it anymore, and then we're going to search Illusion of Chaos. Illusion of Chaos, put itself back to the top of the deck, search the Magician's Souls, send it to the graveyard, summon it, trigger your Fateful Adventure, search Draco back, effective Fateful Adventure, pitch the Draco back, get your Wandering Griffin Rider, summon it to the field, get your Draco back re-equipped to your token, and then you go Magician's Souls, send those 2 spells, draw 2 cards, and then you start playing the game. You draw a Bestial, you banish the Illusion of Chaos out of the graveyard, you draw another card with Chaos Space, and you've drawn like 3 cards, and you know, you're kind of just doing whatever. You have like 5-6 cards in your hand. You're going crazy. So it's pretty solid. And I think it's worth it in a deck like this attempting to kind of go over top of the opponent. Of course, you play the Adventure Package. We already talked about it. You play the mandatory field spells, Ravine Boot, not much to say there, Regains, 2 quick launch, call buys, cross out. Because we're playing 60, we want more outs to Maxi, so more worth it now. 2 Imperms and the Beast. I still like Beast, don't cut this card, etc., etc. As for the extra deck, we play the Martial Metal Marcher, this card. I'm still not entirely positive if I want this in the deck. There are some really, really cool combos that you can do with this card. And this is kind of like the start of my tease, where it's like, you know, I intend to show you guys these combos so that you're not totally lost, but there's some cool stuff that you can do with this card, but not entirely sold on this yet, so maybe this will get cut in the future, but it's pretty solid. The Borreload Savage Dragon, obviously, Baron, Dispatter. There's no Atum in this list because we had to make space for both Cherubini and the Metal Marcher. Then, of course, we have the Pisty, the Strikers, the Seals, the Cherubini, Romulus, IP, Dark Charmer, Triple Burst, Unicorn, and Borland. There is no access code in this list, which is one of those things where it's like, you know, maybe if Metal Marcher isn't coming up as much as I want it to, maybe I'll put the access code back in, maybe I'll put a Tum back in. You know, we haven't been able to ladder with this yet because, you know, the format just hasn't officially started yet. So I haven't been able to put in enough games to decide exactly which extra deck pieces I want. But I wanted you guys to see what your options are more than anything, because you guys can slot in an access code. It's pretty easy to slot it in. But this deck list is really, really crazy. And now to follow up on that little bit of a tease, I do have some replays. I went through and Twitch chat and I we farmed some good replays to show you guys how to do this. We had to do this in such a weird way because for some reason you can't enter solo mode with like decks that don't follow the current ban list. So I had to like play against chatters to get replays to show you guys. But we did manage to do that. We've got some cool replays and show you guys some cool combos with this deck, because this deck can do some really crazy stuff, and I don't think you guys are ready for like how powerful like this deck is. So if you guys want to see that, drop a comment, let me know, and I will share that with you guys. And yeah, I'm really excited to try this deck out because this deck's crazy. This deck's actually crazy. But yeah, so that's all for me. I don't have anything else. Get out of here. I don't know why you're here. Say bye to Twitch chat, and I'll see you in the next video.